The odds were 101 against me. The world with the heights were too high to climb.
The stages in history where you realize what path you took explains where you might be going. Have you ever wondered where you might be going?
The people from the Surrey never incensed me. All I was a bit concerned. From history I could learn how many times the world has turned.
Battle of Agincourt anniversary, Henry V and Crispin Day speech. It was 1415. This is the 600th anniversary last year. That makes you wonder what team spirit in that Chris Coleman squad combines with the talent of Gareth Bale. But then, if you compare musicians with musicians, and take, say, the works of Peter Maxwell Davies, how, for instance, would it rate with the work of, for instance, Sir Edward Elgar? In that, not St. Crispin's Day speech, but the bard of music who wrote Pomp and Circumstance, the Enigma Variations, and who was the son of some note in the history of a country which once claimed it had little experience on the sea, apart from the piracy of Sir Francis Drake. But what makes a navigator so different to a pirate? What makes a soldier who is about to annihilate an enemy a person of honour? May be decided by the way that the Battle of Agincourt is a denote of the Shakespeare version, where Henry V, giving a rousing speech to his troops, was chronicled in Shakespeare's play of the same name, Henry V. King referring to his band of brothers, urging his soldiers to remember previous defeats British English troops had inflicted on the French, and telling them of his valid claim to the French throne. But notice that I skipped the word British very much, for the troubles with Scotland and Ireland have their own foundries in their own troubles with the English. So frankly, I do not appreciate any more being called German, any more than my father was a great musician for the far right, which now is coming into some greater repute in such band of brothers that people look at the annihilation, for instance, that the allies of Britain in England, Ireland, Scotland, fought, for instance, on the first day of the song. The king in Shakespeare's play Henry V, referring to his band of brothers remembering such troops whose infliction upon the French and telling them of his valid claim to the French throne, in St. Crispin's Day falls on, as you know, the 25th of October, a feast day of Christian saints. The question is, what have you got to eat? And is synonymous with victory that fate which is befallen to some dead soldier of the opponent on the other side? That remembering the defeats and the victories, is it, of 100 years' war, that sees a black prince never come to the throne as Edward III, that whose father outlived him. So subsequently we are given, aren't we, Richard II from 1377 to 99. During World War II, Laurence Olivier delivered Shakespeare's St. Crispin's Day speech to boost British morale. Kenneth Branagh also famously performed it in the 1989 adaptation of Henry V. Many famous speeches have made famous artists, and many famous artists have made worse speeches famous by their own defeats, as much as the victors tell some lies. But what is the true history of the reign of kingship brought in under Henry VII, Bosworth Field, the ending of the Plantagenet, the French claim of England, that what nationality does an Englishman claim they more truly are by any misdemeanors or covetous of gold, is very much decided upon who's responsible for your border and who will provide for your safety. God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more. By Jove, I am not covetous for gold, nor care I doth plead who doth my own cost. It yearns me not if men my garments wear. Outward things dwell not in my desires, but if it be sin to cover up honour, I am the most offending soul alive. No faith might God wish, and not a man from England. God's peace I would loathe so great an honour, as one man more in methinks would share from me. For the best hope I have, oh, I do not wish one more. Rather proclaim it, Westmoreland, through my host, that he hath no stomach to his fight. Let him depart, his passport shall be made, and crowns for convoy put into his purse. And crowns for convoy put into his purse. We would not die in that man's company that fears his fellowship to die with us. But how much is the speech of Agincourt depicting of any honour other than the foolhardy acceptation, for want of a better word, acceptance. But I'm going to call it acceptation. That bade the French had between 12,000 and 36,000 troops at that Battle of Agincourt. How many did the French have? 5,000? 20,000? Well, you may think 5,000. The British won the battle with just 5,000 troops. And you take the battle, for instance, Shakespeare visiting Bosworth. The famous line, a horse, a kingdom for my horse. It's a stable, surely, you need for a horse, not a kingdom. Or the horse is more aware of its facility to fly beyond the stable walls. That as horse to horse, my kingdom for a horse, into the mouth of which defeated king, Richard III or Henry VII, you know very much that Henry VII, because I told you, was the first in the new line of the Tudors. Henry VII, Henry VIII Tudor, who you know survived 5 wives, but couldn't survive a 6th. The answer to that is into the mouth of which defeated king was Bosworth. The answer, as you know, was the king whose remains were immortalized in the re-interment in Leicester Cathedral spring of 2015, after some number of years, where they were found under a council car park. So we are destined, are we, for victory, for victory. in the attempts of foolishness to find a stable or a place for even a human being, as much as they could not find for more than Jesus, who came to be quite some martyr, if not some statue of liberty. Take, for instance, the Battle of Naseby, showcased in Parliamentarian's new military victory, the new model army. Who was its commander? Oh, you might think that the model army was commanded by Oliver Cromwell. Well, self-denying ordinance prevented Cromwell from military service, and the special temporary commission did allow him to be Lieutenant General of Horse. Then you might ask about that famous victory where Nelson led 27 ships against 33 French in the Battle of Trafalgar, which you might get experience in the fact that 5 hours of battle later the French and the Spanish had lost 18 ships and at least 3,000 men. That you would wonder how many of 10 or 20 ships did Britain lose. Have a guess. Would it surprise you that the answer lies in that despite losing 500 sailors during that day, including Admiral Nelson, the British did not lose a single ship? What does that explain about chivalry? Or what does it more explain about the horror, or something which your enemy is not telling you? And then in which year did the Battle of Waterloo take place? You cannot make the mistake, can you, of assuming it was 1816, 17, 18, 19. You cannot make that mistake, viewer, when last year you were told it was the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo. For indeed, despite defeating Napoleon at Trafalgar in 1805, he went on, that Nelson, to take swathes of Europe and invaded Belgium in 1815, spurring Britain along with Prussia, Russia, Austria to launch a war against him. And you expect your opponent, if you are Admiral or if you are Napoleon, you expect to win. But who is the greatest commander? The person with the greatest chivalry, who denies to take up arms, or the person who, for instance, in the Somme was one of the bloodiest battles of the First War. How many British soldiers were killed or captured on the first day of the battle? 20,000? 60,000? Almost would it surprise you to know 60,000 British soldiers were killed, wounded or taken prisoner on the first day of the fighting alone, not 20,000. So, what marks the start of the 100 Days Offensive? Battles of the Hindenburg Line or the battles of Amiens? The answer to that, you might think, was the Battle of Amiens, also as the Third Battle of Picardy, began in August 1918, the opening phase of the Allied offensive. And Germany was frightened, weren't they, by America's entry into the war in March, approximately 1917. And so, what gives the British control over Minorca? over Iberia and other climes. May not be its own history, but the fight of the emperor like Napoleon.
They all laughed at Christopher Columbus when he said the world was round. They all laughed when Edison invented sound. They all laughed at Wilbur and his brother when he said the world could fly. They told Marconi a radio was phony. It's the same old cry. Oh, they laughed at me wanting you, that I was reaching for the moon. But oh, you came through. Now they have to change their tune. They all said we never would be happy. Darling, let's take a bow. And ho, 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 who's got the last laugh now?